Yeah, that's my previous one. I'm just about to go live. Yes, I'm live now. It's the peasant, it's the prodigious, the prominent professor, proclamation, news, and gatherance. I just want to say thank you all for coming in, listening. Please subscribe to the prodigious, the prominent professor, proclamation, news, and gatherance. I like to think myself of a socialist, communist kind of person. Which way, what way, politics? I'm a conservatism, bona fide conservatism. Like I say, I take each and everyone's, uh, values, their opinions. I take them as an etiquette sense. Everyone's opinion matters. I don't discriminate. I'll think about equalities of life, all the walks of life, the equalities of life. Everyone needs some support one way or another. Um, Everyone's got their life through purgatory, as we all understand. Oh my goodness! Thank you so much, Jennifer, for confirming. You can hear me from Canada, all the way from Canada. Friend, my lovely friend from Canada, supporting the show. Supported me for over a year and a half now. I really appreciate your friendship, Jen. Anyway, as we're moving on, that's my lovely friend Jennifer. So please subscribe to her YouTube. She's a great candidate on board. She's flying the flag all the way in Canada. Anyway, I'm the capital P in proclamation, capital P in persuasion. I'm a capital P in persuasive, capital P in punctuation, capital B, capital P in provocative, capital P in propaganda, capital P in purity, capital P in progressive, capital P in progression, capital P in philanthropist, capital P in populism. I'm a motivational speaker. When I say the capital P in purity, I'm not saying it because I'm hiding something behind closed doors. I do alcohol, narcotics, because I don't. I don't do zero anything. Zero nicotine, zero alcohol, zero narcotics. I do zero nothing, literally. It's about time people wake up and smell the roses. Because this man here is very puristy, very pragmatic and etiquette with sense. I know what a complete monstrosity of society is, and I know what a good standard of community standard of person is as well. I like to drink my cup of tea with the people I'd like to be surrounded around with etiquette sense, like quite like-minded people like myself and my friend Jennifer and so on and so forth. Sunday people that go to church. Sunday, I call them Sunday people that wake up on a Sunday with a headache. The Sunday people that worship. They're grounded in their religion. They're grounded in their whatever, like politics. They're interested in politics. They're grounded. They wake up every day with a niche. They've got a niche. They've got a compassion to wake up for that niche. Anyway, what is your niche? What is your market? I'm stud. My academic integrity is arts and humanities. Do I want a job in Burger King? No. Do I want a job in Pizza Hut? No. Do I want a job in as a banker? No. My etiquette sense is politics. If I'm a professional boxer, I want to wake up and do boxing in the morning. No, I want to wake up and do politics in the morning. My academic integrity, I'm going to be £15,000 worth of debt when I finish my academic integrity, and this is where it stays. So if you'd like to get involved, please subscribe, ladies and gents. What do you get if you become a member of any political party? I mean, I'm with the Conservatives. It's about £25 a year, £2 a week. £2 a week. What's £2 a week? Not £2 a week, £2 a month. £2 a month to sign up with the Conservatives. It was £2 a month, really. You probably spend £20 a week down a pub, perhaps maybe a bit more. Some might spend 100, 200 on alcohol and then narcotics, whatever. £2 a week to sign up to be part of, supporting the democracy, making your children's welfare, safety. You can have influence in a party policy. We don't have alcoholics around children playgrounds. Things like that. Things you want to put in place. You don't want alcoholics in a children's playground or the park. You don't want people jacking up with their needles over the park where children play. If you want to get involved, you need to put £2 in the bin. Support the democracy. Let's help influence the party policy. Let's make the UK a better Britain, a better, brighter future for our children. We want to support the eco-friendly side of things. Even in, like I said, industrialisation, the pollution through businesses. You see people tipping oil down the drain. See people tipping paint, cans down the drain. Or this is the time to wake up and smell the roses. Get involved. Put put laws in place. That's why they put fines and certain things. Help us. You can help us win elections. All your subscription goes towards our campaigns. Get the latest from inside the party with regular member updates and exclusive member invites. Take part in our campaign groups like the Conservative Women's Organisation, the Young Conservatives, or Conservative Friends groups. Meet like minded people and make a difference to our country. Influence party policy by giving feedback on policy briefs. Choose candidates and votes in leadership elections so you can choose the people you want to represent you. Look at your MP, your local MP in your constituency. You want to make adjustments for disability of your grandmother, your father, your nan. You know, your nan's having trouble getting to taxi. The taxi driver don't want to go to her front door and help her in. Well, you need to raise the alert, raise your alert system by messaging an MP because they're very more formal when they send an email to the local taxi firm to say, can you please get out of your car and help Mrs. Jones enter her vehicle as she's disabled? Because you haven't got the formal etiquette sense to write the email to the firm they're working for. There's certain loads of things you can adjust to. You know, kids being bullied at school, speak to the local MP. He may have to adapt to the head teacher, prioritise. Anyway, let's move forward. You can choose candidates and vote at leadership elections, so you can choose the people you want to represent you, like I just said. Come to party conference and spring forum. Join our MPs, councillors, and activists at the biggest events of the Conservative calendar. Connect with local Conservatives as a member. You become part of the local association, support local campaigns, and attend social events with members just like you. Stand for election. You want to stand for election. You want to make a big impact in your society, in your community. You're a good community stand up person, but you want to prioritize your priorities and put them in one basket and think, this is what I want to adjust. This is what I want to move on. More youth clubs in the community. More things to do for youngsters so they stay off the streets away from alcoholism and narcotics. It's a rough world out there for children, especially those children that brought up in the suburbs. They need stuff to do. Youth club, sporting activities, parks, local parks, places where they go and kick a ball away from alcoholism, from the adults sitting in the park drinking, doing it, smoking their spliffs or doing their jacking up. You need place to be safe. Stand for election. As a member, you have the opportunity to stand for election as Conservative. So if you decide that you want to take part in our democracy, you can. Me, growing up in the Beirut, absolute Beirut, I was brought up. The amount of kids on that estate that I was brought up on, are either imprisoned for life or they've been to prison through the stupidity for alcoholism and narcotics. They've either stabbed someone or robbed a shop. It's disgusting. What I was brought up, man, to what I am today, to what I've been, what I was then, and to still what I am today. I was a kid that had always had my head down, always played sport away from trouble. I knew if I kept my head down doing sport, that trouble would soon blow over my head. That trouble would be at the back of me. And that's why I kept my head down. That's why I kept grounded in everything I do. Even this, you see me 7 days a week. Do you think, does that boy need a day off? He's doing that day in, day out. Sometimes twice a day. That's without my 6 hours study throughout the day. I put a lot of energy into my cast to give you the updates of the news, to try and build my channel, to get more subscribers, to get more noticed, to get more recognised, become more etiquette with sense. Thank you all for listening. I'm on Castbox as well at the moment. I'm on Podbean. I always keep my shows a motive, trying to reach the audience, trying to make you think this guy is absolute euphoria to my ears. I like him. He's got a good sense and sensibility. Anyway, Brexit. This is the Irish PM. Brexit. UK has to knuckle down and get a trade deal with the EU. The Irish PM. I'm not worried about the EU. Obviously, the Irish are because they still want to be part of the EU. They don't want a hard border going up. But I want England to become independent. I don't know what you guys think. Was Scotland independent? Why isn't UK independent? UK has to knuckle down to get a post-Brexit trade deal with the EU by the end of the year. The Irish Taoiseach and Michael Martin has said, I'm not worried. He also said failing to reach an agreement would be very, very damaging all round. The UK and the EU are in talks, but big differences remain, and fishing access and rules on state help for businesses. See, this is what I'm not. This is what I'm not up for. We want to take back priority over our fishing, which is fair dues. It's our water, it's our fish. If in the when you study, I'm studying, investigating the social world. I think we're entitled. It's something like 300 is it 300 miles off coastline and 30,000 feet up in the air, which the state governments own. The state sovereignty of the government owned that part of our land from the UK. Remember the Battle of the Morada? The Battle of the Morada, Spanish fleet trying to overtake our land as well with their ships. As soon as someone enters our coastline, that 30, 300, is it 30, 30 miles out or 300 miles out, they enter that past that coast is ours. They're in our territory. They get to, they should be, police should be going to check to see what's going on before they get into our coast, basically. Boris Johnson has insisted there is a deal to be done, and that outlines of an agreement and clear. UK officially left on the EU on the 21st of January, but has been in a transition period since then, following many of the bloc's rules, while a trade agreement is negotiated. The period is due to end on the 31st December, and if a deal is not reached, the UK will trade with the EU on World Trade Organization rules, leaving to tariffs being introduced on many imports and exports, which could push up costs for business and consumers. Long as our WTO um, organisation stays with us, but I'm not worried about too much about the EU. I'm not. I've got no. I've got nothing interested with the EU, to be honest with you. Speaking to the BBC, Irish Prime Minister Mr Martin warned that failure to get a deal would be ruinous for the UK and that Ireland would suffer. We've all had a very significant shock to our economic system because of COVID-19. The last thing we need now across all our respective economies is second major shock, he said. He said the US President elect Joe Biden would introduce a great thrust towards multilateralism and that the UK should follow his orientation by working with the EU. Why should, because you've got a new president that likes touching kids involved, we've got to go with what he says. I don't think so. He's new to the block. He's new to the throne. Why should Boris have to bow down to Joe Biden's rules and regulation? I want to get into what I've written about him earlier. Mr. Martin dismissed suggestions the EU had not compromised in the talks and said he believed a deal could still be reached. Niggling doubts, he also warned the UK government to be very careful that they do not do anything that could be destabilise the politics of Northern Ireland as it leaves the transition period. Throughout the Brexit process, the UK and the EU have insisted they want to avoid a hard border with cameras and border posts between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Mr Martin said failure to reach a deal could create tension that are unnecessary and that there was a danger these concerns were not being taken seriously enough. He cited the UK government's internal market bill as an example. The bill is designed to enable goods and services to flow freely across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland after the 1st of January, when the post-Brexit transition period runs out. It gives the government the power to change aspects of the EU withdrawal agreement, a legally binding deal governing the terms of Brexit made earlier this year. UK ministers says the bill would provide a safety net in case of the EU interprets the agreement, in particular a section of Northern Ireland, in an extreme unreasonable way. The UK government has said the bill protects peace, but Martin said it did not take on board the implications for politics in Northern Ireland itself. He added that the bill had created niggling doubts over whether the UK could be trusted. Mr Martin also called Mr Biden probably the most Irish of presidents since John F. Kennedy. Well, he's not, because he's in the US. He said Mr Biden was very committed to the Good Friday Agreement, the peace deal that, among other things, established power sharing in Northern Ireland, and that he did not want Brexit to undermine it. Asked if he thought the new American president would be closer to UK or Ireland, he says, I don't buy this. simplistic narrative. He loves Ireland and he has a great time. For the UK. Speaking to UK Labour Party Shadow Cabinet Officer Minister Rachel Reeves said failing to agreement a deal with the EU would be a disaster for already stretched businesses for workers. Ms Reeves said that the government had to listen to industry, get prepared and ensure their incompetence doesn't disrupt businesses and cost jobs. Let me tell you one thing for straight. Me or you, we've seen the media. It could be a class A nonce. We've seen the media. We'll believe the propaganda. The propaganda says wear a COVID mask. Propaganda says you might catch COVID if you don't wear a COVID mask, so we put a COVID mask on. Propaganda says Joe Biden is a paedophile. If Joe Biden is a paedophile and propaganda is real, would you send your kids to America? I would not. I would not let my kids near that man, just in case. Just in case. We've been sent a signal across that their iron might be hot if you touch it. You're not going to stick your kids near the hot iron, are you? Joe Biden is that hot iron, according to the propaganda. So this is what I read. Joe Biden is certainly not a friend of Britain. I'm very surprised he got voted in as president, if I'm totally honest. I mean, all these people that voted him probably got children of their own, so they're obviously not taken to propaganda. But vote for a person that may be a paedophile, but might not be because the propaganda says so. That's worrying. Well, at least he's being watched 24/7 while he is a president. The new trend is to make a paedophile as a president. Welcome to 2020. They can't lock them up. They can let them walk freely and have the highest paid job description in the country. They do let paedophiles walk freely. There's 330,000 A-listed paedophiles in the UK alone, and there's 66.6 million people in the UK. So if they're letting them, this could be a paedophile, is what I'm saying. There's allegedly 330,000 A-class paedophiles in the UK walking around daily. And there's kids getting kidnapped, trying to get kidnapped out of Clacton, where my constituency, Clacton, people driving about vans. It's very, very worrying that this could happen. This could be happening right now. And it's very, very, very worrying that the whole US and people in the UK voted for this Joe Biden, knowing that they don't know if these allegations are true, but to hear that they could be true and to see the visual evidence in sniffing young girls' hair on newspaper and still voting them in is a big shock. Is a big, big shock. I didn't think someone like Tupac could be president because the amount of murders he's done, but anything's possible at the moment around the globe. Anything's, but I mean, you got Kanye West. He's running for president. I don't know if he's got any convictions, but is he a role model? Is he a role model to US? He's a rap star, isn't he? He's a rap star. What is a role model for a president now? What is a role model for a president nowadays? It's that's what I read on Facebook. It's a shock. It's a shock. That's what I'm saying. A big shock. I mean, people in the US that voted for him need to wake up. People in the UK that voted for him need to wake up. Some of the world champion boxers nowadays, they're not like world champions anymore. They're like, I don't know, they're convicts. They're narcotic abusers. They're not very good role models for the children of today. Not good role models for the children of today. Even these footballers, world class footballers, Paul Gascoigne. He's like Phil Mitchell, isn't he? In EastEnders. It's a shock. These kids looking up to these guys. You need better, etiquette people in the frame, and keep all the suburban scumbags away from these etiquette people to take them down the same path as them. Anyway, moving on, guys. Moving on. Stonehenge, A303 tunnel plan approved by Transport Secretary. Stonehenge, anyone been here to Stonehenge? It's on the way to Bristol, I believe. Or is it on the way to Lancashire? I know a box near there, and we went, I think that is Bristol. We're near Bristol, on the way to Bristol, because I boxed at Bristol Football Stadium. I remember that Stonehenge as we went past it. A controversial plan to dig a 2.4 billion road tunnel near Stonehenge has been approved by the Transport Secretary, Who is the Transport Secretary? I can tell you without even knowing, without looking. Grant Shapps, the MP of Hatfield, Hertfordshire. The A303, a popular route for motorists travelling to and from the southwest, runs within a few hundred metres of the World Heritage Site. The decision to build a 2-mile, 3.2 tunnel out of sight of the monument goes against the recommendations of planning officials. Campaigners said it was a complete violation and international scandal. The planning inspectorate has recommended Transport Secretary Grant Shapps without consent, warning it would cause permanent, irreversible harm to the World Heritage Site. But the Department for Transport wrote to Highways England stating the Secretary of State is satisfied that, on balance, the need case for the development together with the further other benefits identified outweigh any harm. Sarah Richards, the Planning Inspectorate Chief Executive, said there had been a great deal of public interest in this project. She said a major priority for us over the course of examination was to ensure that communities who might be affected by the proposal had the opportunity to put forward their views. As always, the examining authority gave careful consideration to these before reaching its conclusion. Some environmentalists and archaeologists had voiced their opposition to planned due said building the tunnel would remove what was once there and has been there for thousands of years. While Cass Smith, a droid and anti-tunnel campaigner, said it was a complete violation. You wouldn't dream of pushing a bore tunnel next door to the Salisbury Cathedral, so why Stonehenge, she said. Previous precious for humanity. Professor David Jacks from the University of Buckingham described the news as gut-wrenching. The tunnel is going to clearly compromise the archaeology, he said. Stonehenge is precious for the whole of the humanity. Poor understanding of how we adapted and evolved as a species since the Ice Age. It is an international scandal. In June, it emerged that the team at archaeologists had discovered a ring of at least 20 large shafts with an ancient religious monument a short distance from the stones. But Highways England said the finds were outside the scheme boundary and no closer than 500 metres from the planned road upgrade in Wiltshire. Chief Executive Joe O'Sullivan welcomed the decision and said the A303 Stonehenge Tunnel project is part of the biggest investment in our road network for a generation. The transformational scheme will return Stonehenge landscape towards its original setting and will improve journey times for everyone who travels and from the southwest. Great Blight, Anna Evas from the English Heritage, which looked like Stonehenge, said the scheme would restore the ancient landscape around the monument. At the monument, the A303 is a great blight which cuts through the World Heritage Site, she said. The project will transform this great blight so people will be able to walk freely and experience these monuments without the assault of the senses. There is now a 6-week period in which the decision can be challenged in the High Court. Chancellor Rishi Sunak announced in March the funding was in place for the project, which part of a 1.7 billion upgrade of the A303 public-private funding was due to be used to finance the work. But in October 2018, then Chancellor Philip Hammond cancelled future deals using that model. Thank you all for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Please share and subscribe. I need to build this up. Working daily. I don't know how many more days I've got to do before I get 10 million viewers, listeners, every single day of the year for about the last 2 years. Labour should apologise for Brexit policy, says key Corbyn allies. Two key members of Jeremy Corbyn's Cabinet have called for the party issue for the full-throated apology for the stance on Brexit. Before we move on with this, anyway, I just wanted to outline something. Sir Keir Starmer made the allegations against Jeremy Corbyn. Why did he make these allegations of the anti-Semitism towards Jeremy Corbyn when you've got the biggest fascist in the whole party, Tony Blair? Tony Blair was not only a prime minister at one stage, he also caused a war with Iraq and Iran and fled the country. and he's also um, Islamophobia towards Priti Patel, towards all the Islam people. How that bloke has not been taken out of Labour Party, I do not know, and how everyone are standing by Sir Keir Starmer of what he's doing at the moment, I do not know. It's shocking. Nigel Farage is a complete numpty, from what I was just telling you earlier. America, let's make America great again when they've been leading Jimmy Savile as the new president. And this is a complete mess up as well in the party. Not just discriminating, it's true. Sir Keir Starmer might have some sort of responsibility to he's putting it right, trying to put it right, but he's not. He's got to put Tony Blair to bring him to the side. One lady left from Islington, London, for being getting Muslim threats at her through the party of Labour. Needs to be pulled to the side and sorted amongst the party. Ex-party chairman Ian Lavery and former elections chief John Trickett say backing a second referendum at last year's election destroyed trust. In a new report, the pair called for the current leadership to apologise to both Remain and Leave voters. Sir Keir Starmer was leading advocate of another referendum. The party's then Brexit spokesman was elected to replace Mr Corbyn as leader in April. In their report, to be published later, Mr Lavery and Mr Trickett, who were both fired from the front bench by Sir Keir, say Leave and Remain voters were equally let down by the party's Brexit policy at the 2019 election. Leave voters were often too sneered and Remain voters were led up the garden path with opposition of overturning the referendum result. That was never seriously achievable. To put this aside, Leavers and Remainers need apology. Confused and contradictory. The pair's reports, entitled No Holding Back, was co-written with former MP Laura Smith, who's lost Crewe and Nantwich to the Conservatives at the 2019 election. It is a result of the Zoom conversations with Labour's activists, trade unionist voters and former voters. And the report, indeed, does not hold back on what the authors think went wrong at the general election. Mr Lavery and Mr Trickett maintain they warned their shadow cabinet colleagues and of the electoral consequences of backing a second referendum. They say our argument back in the summer 2019 that seeking to overturn the referendum would lead to electoral disaster in the North and the Midlands was drowned out by the elements in the top ranks of the party. We opposed the moves which were made to turn the party into a main facing political unit, but their criticisms go beyond Brexit. The party The party machine was in 2019 under the control of Jeremy Corbyn allies, and Ian Lavery in particular played the prominent role in touring seats in Labour needed to win or could be afford to lose. But the report acknowledges serious mistakes. It argues that we do not develop a narrative that threaded our policies together and told the story what Labour would do in power. 2019 election was a hard lesson on how not to do policy. It was confused, a contradictory in some places, and was not believable to the most voters. A question of leadership. The report analyses why Labour has recovered in the polls since Sir Keir Starmer became leader. It suggests it's picking up the more support among former Liberal Democrats and middle class voters in the South. In Leave voters' areas, the report argues there has been a glacial pace of change among voters who are still overwhelming in the Tory camp. President Sir Keir Starmer's leadership is yet to cut through. Supporters of the current Labour leader maintained that Corbyn was mentioned on a doorstep during last year's election as the reason for not voting Labour more often than Brexit. And Sir Keir Starmer's personal rating had not only been much higher than his predecessors, but have also run ahead of prime ministers in some polls. The report acknowledged that the Corbyn leadership and his perceived lack of patriotism was an issue at the last election. It says that it had been failing of the leadership not to interpret what patriotism really means in a progressive sense. But it also claims that the media smears it meant that they viewed less favourably by the public in 2019 than at 2017 election. Working class heroes. The report suggests Labour's problems go much deeper than the issue of Brexit and leadership. That's far too long, predominantly working class areas. Voters felt they were being taken for granted, and that Labour was seen as the establishment party for Conservatives with activists and trade unionists. The report's author says people repeatedly claimed that the Labour had become too southern and too middle class. They have some recommendations to including when candidates are selected, introducing quotas for those from working class backgrounds. Close to general election supporters of the party leadership under Tony Blair and Jeremy Corbyn have been selected with little say from local members. The old days of parachuting political professionals into working class communities that they have no connection to must now end in totally, says the report. And while Mr. Lavery and Mr. Trickett left the shadow cabinet at Sir Keir Starmer's request, they have what they call some comradely advice for them. Be bold and transformational. Left behind, criticism of Starmer leadership has been fairly muted but until the suspension of Jeremy Corbyn. But a report from John Trickett and Ian Lavery and Laura Smith could signal a renewed willingness to speak out. Closely fought elections to Labour's ruling. National Executive concluded Thursday and will determine whether the left's influence will continue to wane or whether grassroots numbers want to limit Sir Keir's growing control of the party machine. I mean, what's your southern thought of Sir Keir Starmer? Is he doing a good job? I mean, I've got friends at Labour. I don't want to totally write the guy off, but obviously my first thought, even if it was if I was on opposing party and I was thinking about Boris, if he let it's in the paper in the headline that he let Jimmy Savile off an allegation. Again, apparently Margaret Thatcher let it happen as well. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the story, but I know Sir Keir Starmer was in court because he was a legislator of the court of the judicial at the time when Jimmy Savile was going through all them allegations of being a paedophile. And it's in the court report that Jimmy Savile was fighting his case, got him off. So that's your first thoughts, isn't it? Your first thoughts is what you see in black and white. And obviously everyone goes, yeah, but Margaret Thatcher let it happen. Or if Sir Keir Starmer is the legislator in a I don't know what sort of court that would be, a magistrate's court, I don't know. It wouldn't be a family court, would it? Or was Jimmy Savile trying to be a dad to everyone's kid? Don't know. But yeah, that was Sir Keir Starmer's job role at the time. So it's got little to do with Margaret Thatcher. As Margaret Thatcher got the power to say, yeah, let's behead Jimmy Savile, let's stick him up to life behind bars. Because there's 330,000 still of them walking about today. Sickening to know that they can get a normal job, a 9 to 5 job, and live in today's modern society. I think it's acceptable when we've got our own grandkids, nieces, nephews, families, kids. It's shocking, to say the least. I'm worried about my own kids' welfare because there's a few allegations there that on that side of the family that need to be protected. But as social services, about much use of chocolate fire guard, they let mothers, um, jack up in front of their children nowadays, and I don't mind. But anyway, moving on. Stressful conversation we get into that subject, isn't it? Hugo Boss drops Scouse slogan copyright action. Fashion giant Hugo Boss has dropped its legal fight with an artist over his use of the word boss in a clothing range. John Charles from Houghton, Merseyside, planned to launch a merchandise as spin-off from the online art lesson he started during the first lockdown. Mr. Charles, who ends lessons by saying "Be boss, be kind," said an agreement had been reached over the slogan. Hugo Boss confirmed it had reached an amicable solution with Mr. Charles that does not justice to both sides. The artist signs off was so popular it led to a demand for merchandise with the motto, which caught the attention of the German fashion brand. The word boss in nipples slang for great. Mr. Charles said, "I'm buzzing. It is just boss. The key thing is that we are able to continue our free online art classes and releases our merchandise." Mr. Charles conducted his first meeting alongside his wife, Jen, and Hugo Boss officials over Skype before company offering pro bono legal advice took over negotiations. He said he wanted to say a massive thank you to the people who had given him overwhelming public support. Hugo Boss were really sound, very friendly, he said. He added, By the end of the call, we had them all laughing, and one of their reps said she will get her kid to join in one of their online art classes. More than 27,000 people logged into Mr. Charles' free online art classes, which he devised with the help of his 10-year-old daughter. We wanted to finish positively, which is why we said, "Boss, be kind," he said. People from Australia, Italy, Mexico were among those who took part. The artists began marketing the slogan after people started asking for baseball caps and t-shirts and hoodies. Money from the merchandise had been put into a trust fund for his daughter. He received a letter from lawyers on behalf of Hugo Boss after he applied for the trademark Be Boss, Be Kind in July. Why you'd need that? Hugo Boss, not Be Boss. It's a total different name. You shouldn't have to ask for the copywriting thing. Lee Kane, top Boris Johnson's aide quits amid infighting at number 10. Sorry if I come across a bit irrational about things, but it's just my thinking mechanism at times. I think, why would you bother? One of Boris Johnson's closest aides, Director of Communications Lee Kane, has resigned amid reports of internal tension on Downing Street. This day and age, be kind, be sweet, be a gentleman. It doesn't matter how kind and sweet you are. No one's ever going to take your innocence over monstrosity. It's not the way. It's not the way the world works. Unfortunately, you can be the most polite person in the world, and people won't listen to you. You shout at someone, they'll open up, and go into a police station and go, "Excuse me, Mr. Officer, I've been someone's touched my back bottom." They're not going to answer you. If you shout at them, they'll answer you. That's just the way the world works. It's disgusting. You can come into my office with the absolute aristocracy, socially etiquette voice, and so you won't get noticed. You won't get your nice nature will not get noticed. You can go to church every Sunday for most of your life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make you a better father. It doesn't make you a better mother. The, the crap get everything. The crap in life end up with everything. Always the way. Look at Pablo Escobar. They come a crop in the end, but they're in that. They're doing it for ages. They're damaging the whole democracy. These narcotic abusers that sell it to the young kids in the street, they're ruining everyone's life, and no one's stopping them because the police don't want to get themselves in danger. These people are ruining all these kids' lives, mental health, everything. The police don't want to put themselves in danger to take these big um, drug lords out of the equation. Anyway, because drugs do commit these other young teenagers to do rape to young girls, or that we know it's all kind of things. It's disgusting what these things you see in society nowadays. He will leave next month despite being offered a promotion to chief of staff. His departure prompts speculation about the future of PM's chief advisor Dominic Cummings, but the BBC was told he would stay for now. Number 10 denying Mr. Johnson has been distracted by Sega, saying he was fully focused on tackling COVID. Mr. Kane has been at the PM's side since he was a press officer for the Vote Leave campaign under Mr. Cummings. I mean, you see in the paper the other day that I don't know, a boy must have been about 22. He was going to outside primary school picking up young girls about 13. Disgusting. I mean, it brings a kid up in that sort of sense of frame of mind. Many will not heard of him before the story broke, but his resignation comes at a time when the government is facing big decisions over its coronavirus strategy and the future post-Brexit trade deal with the EU. After a number of rows and U-turns with the government in recent months, Number 10 will see communication as a key in connecting with the country and trying to gain support for its decisions. The news that left Mr. Kane, who worked with Mr. Cummings and the PM in the Vote Leave campaign to get Britain out of the EU, could become Mr. Johnson's chief of staff and had led to concentration among some MPs and ministers, said BBC's political editor Lauren Grensberg. One Tory one Tory source even suggests that Mr. Johnson's fiancée, Carrie Symonds, a former head of communications for the Conservatives, having misgivings about the plan. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer told LBC's radio, "This is pathetic. I think millions of people will be waking up this morning scratching their heads saying, what on earth is going on?" We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're all worried about our health and our families. We're all worried about our jobs. And this lot are squabbling behind the door at number 10. Pull yourself together. Focus on the job in hand. I mean, theoretically speaking, if Sir Keir Starmer was our leader, anyone was our leader, what would you do? Say, go back to work. Everyone go back to work. Let's, open the pubs, open the nightclubs. Let's have a hell of a load of gatherings. A load of raves in town. All the families go and meet up there, and then we go around our parents' house at Christmas and kid our mum and dads off. Really, come on, people, wake up. Come on, Starmer, liven up, mate. Be serious. What is his problem? But the PM spokeswoman said Mr. Johnson was concentrating on fighting coronavirus, adding, "You can see the progress we're making in terms of rolling out mass testing, in securing vaccines, and also in terms of making improvements to test and trace." If this turns out to be, you know, 90% accurate and it gives my chance of my family to survive, I'm going to take it without a shadow of Brussels sprout. I'll take it, so I don't take it into their home. Cabinet Officer Minister Michael Gove said there is also a complete focus in government on making sure we can work with businesses and work with citizens in order to deliver on a promise of Brexit. This is much more than a random resignation. Lee Kane was Boris' longest serving abide at number 10 and very close to his most senior advisor, Dominic Cummings. Arguments and rivalry in Downing Street operations are not unusual. This feels different though. Perhaps the final act of the vote leave is playing out after a month of building tensions. One insider, who until now has kept their counsel, spoke out in frustration last night, saying, "I just can't describe to you how much of it was how much of a mess it is. It's about who is running the country and the Prime Minister's ability to manage his own operation. The question now is whether the chaos that has spilled into the public spirals into something more serious, or whether it is a chance for a reset for the Prime Minister's inquiries." Allies of Mr. Kane were unhappy and about how he had been treated, which prompted initial speculation about Mr. Cummings' own future. Mr. Cummings and Mr. Kane are long-time colleagues, having worked together on leaving campaign during the EU referendum. Mr. Kane, who is set up to step down next month, will replace the Director of Communication, James Slack, a former journalist and one of the PM spokesmen. Mr. Johnson is thought to be looking to fill most posts of the Chief of the Staff as part of the wider resignation, which is also see ex-BBC journalist Algira Stratton take on a role fronting nearly daily televised press briefings. Who is Lee Kane? Who is Lee Kane? Lee Kane is 39. He went to Ormskirk Grammar School in Lancashire and Stafford University before starting a career in journalism in 2006 as the Abbey Mead and Abbeydale Patch reporter for the Gloucestershire Citizen. He worked briefly in the Sun and the Mail on Sunday and joined the Daily Mirror, where he spent during the 2010 election campaign following Conservative leader David Cameron dressed as a chicken. Later, he became member of the communications team for the Vote Leave campaign and worked for a special advisor for Boris Johnson and Foreign Office. He also worked for Michael Gove, Andrew Leesdom and Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. In his resignation statement, Mr. Kane said it is important. It had been a privilege to work for Mr. Johnson, but he added, "After careful consideration, I have this evening resigned at number 10, the Director of Communications, and will leave the post at the end of the year." In response, Mr. Johnson thanks Mr. Kane for his extraordinary service to him, calling him a true and ally and a friend. Conservative MPs expressed their dismay at the wrangling in Downing Street, which comes at a time of growing unease on the government benches over its handling of the pandemic, especially use of the lockdown measures. Charles Walker, the vice chairman of the influential 1922 committee of the backbench MP, told BBC Radio 4 Today programme there has been unhappiness about the number 10 operation for some time. He added, members of parliament have felt excluded from the decision-making process and that no secret The opportunity is the chief or the staff position is filled by someone who has a good link for the Conservative Party and its representation of the House of Commons. Fellow backbenchers, Sir Roger Gow said, it is very worrying indeed that number 10 consider it is probably to devote the amount of energy internal squabbles in the midst of the pandemic and Brexit trade negotiations. He told BBC News, we really do need people in their own minds on the job. It really is time the Downing Street to get got in place. I think it is now common parlance is known as somebody with big boy pants on. Prime Minister particularly, one facing the difficulties that Mr Johnson facing needs heavyweight help. PNG, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe, please share. It's been absolutely fantastic that you guys have come to join me daily. It's not. I mean, some days I've got the energy to bust out 2 hours. Some days I've the energy to bust out half hour. I've had a long academic week of just writing notes, studying. Um, I do write notes for my journalism most days. You know, coming up with new ideas, new strategies that I want to tackle. My teleological, fruitfully thoughtful process to outline current incidents, all family updates, politic updates, and also interpret my own incentive, towards it. I like to argue what I'm reading to make it more interesting for the audience, to make it more mine. Emphasizing is a skill that a presenter will have. Brings characteristics to the show, brings professionalism as well, which I like. Etiquette is professionalism, just so you know. So you know you're on the same platform. Thank you, ladies and gents. I'm going to go over to my other radio station now. I'm going to do some singing. Unfortunately, for you YouTubers, you can't see my live singing because the sound is not coming so loud at my speaker. And this ain't good. I'm getting a new microphone. It's on its way from being delivered from America. So when it gets here, hopefully, I'll probably have someone like Jen or mate Tony to let me know it's crystal clear and we'll get the show up and running for future reference. But I'll go over to my other application. So I'll catch you guys later. Thank you all for coming through. Really appreciate your loyalty, support. Um, even if you come by, leaving a little comment on the side, gives me a bit of encouragement. A bit of acknowledgement. So I know you're here, know who's in, know who to thank. It's important. Thank you. God bless. Speak soon. I'm back tomorrow. Or maybe not tomorrow, maybe Saturday actually. I've got my mum and dad's at some part tomorrow. Thank you. God bless. Take care. One love.